4:52 on a Thursday afternoon. The conference room on the second floor, the one with the broken blind that nobody has ever fixed, so the light comes in at an angle that puts a bright stripe across the table. His manager slides a single sheet of paper across, says the number out loud even though it's printed right there, because saying it is the whole point of the meeting. He shakes her hand. She says, "Tell your viewers to like, share, and subscribe." He says thank you. He means it. Walking back to his desk, he does the thing everybody does. He multiplies. 12 months, then 5 years, then he stops, because the number gets large enough to feel embarrassing. It's his third promotion in 11 years. He is not richer than he was at the first one. Not a little richer, not slightly ahead. The same. And he does not know that yet, standing in that hallway at 4:52 on a Thursday, with a piece of paper in his hand and a whole future assembling itself behind his eyes. Nothing has gone wrong. Nothing is going to go wrong. That's what makes this take 11 years. You expect being underpaid to feel like being underpaid. You expect it to feel like the pinch, like coming up short, like the sensation of asking for something and being told no. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like winning. It feels like a handshake and a printed sheet of paper and a manager saying your name in a slightly warmer voice than usual. It feels like the 8 weeks after, which are genuinely, uncomplicatedly good. He has been told yes 3 times. He has never once been turned down for anything he asked for. And he is exactly where he started. 8 weeks. That's the number, though nobody ever writes it down. 8 weeks is how long a raise stays visible. The first 2 months, the money is a separate thing, a distinct object, something you can feel sitting in the account like a coin in a pocket. You check the balance more often than you need to. It's pleasant. Then, week 9 arrives, and the money isn't an object anymore. It's just the amount. It's just what you have. And the strange specific magic of it is that you cannot remember what it was like before, even though it was 8 weeks ago. 3 raises. 24 weeks. Out of 11 years, he has spent 24 weeks feeling wealthy. 5 months of a decade. He never counted that either. Here's where the money actually went, and every single line of it is defensible. The first raise went into an apartment with a second bedroom, because they were planning to have a kid, and you cannot have a kid in a 1-bedroom, and everyone he asked agreed with him. $400 more a month. Nobody in the history of the world has regretted a second bedroom. The second raise went into a car, because the old one had 140,000 miles on it, and a mechanic had used the word eventually. And then into a daycare 11 minutes closer than the cheap one, which bought back 22 minutes a day, which is 110 minutes a week, which is a real number that he calculated at the kitchen table and showed his wife, and she agreed, because it was true. The third raise is the one that frightens him later, when he finally sits down with the statements. Because he cannot find it. There is no apartment, no car, no daycare. It's simply diffused. Groceries got slightly better. The thermostat went up 2 degrees in winter. They stopped checking prices on things under $20. 100 small permissions, granted quietly, none of them worth arguing about. That's the one that teaches him what actually happened. He goes back 4 years of statements one night, at the kitchen table, after everyone's asleep. It takes him 2 hours, and a legal pad, and he's honestly a little proud of himself for doing it. And what he finds isn't a leak. There's no subscription he forgot, no fee quietly draining him, nothing he can cancel on a Sunday and feel better about. It's 400 separate small decisions, and he agrees with every single one of them. He reads them back, and he would make them again. That's the moment it stops being a budgeting problem. You can fix a leak. You cannot fix 400 reasonable choices, the first 2 raises he spent. The third one he never even saw. There's a guy he worked with at his first job, back before any of this. They run into each other at a kid's birthday party, of all places. Standing near the drinks table, while somewhere behind them a room full of 6-year-olds loses its mind over a piñata. The usual conversation, work, kids, how fast it goes. And at some point the guy mentions, without any particular weight, that he's still driving the same car he bought in 2014. Says it the way you'd mention the weather. Not proudly, not as a lesson. It just came up. He asks, mostly to be polite, whether it still runs okay. The guy says it runs fine. They talk about something else. The piñata comes apart. Somebody's kid cries. And on the drive home, in a car that is 4 years old and very quiet, he finds himself doing arithmetic he did not choose to do. 11 years of payments on cars he replaced 3 times. And the number that comes out at the end of it is not enormous, it's just a down payment. It's just the exact thing he has spent 11 years telling himself he cannot afford. What happened to him is not a character flaw, it's a ratchet. A ratchet only turns one way. That's the entire mechanism. Income goes up, and spending rises to meet it. And then income holds steady, and spending does not come back down. Because coming back down would mean giving something up. And here's the part that makes it almost impossible to fight. Every single thing he bought solved a real problem. The second bedroom solved a real problem. The closer daycare solved a real problem. The warmer house solved a real problem. Unsolving a solved problem doesn't feel like saving money. It feels like losing. It feels like moving backward. Like telling your family that the thing you gave them was temporary. No one does that voluntarily. Not once. Not ever. Which is why the ratchet holds, and why almost nobody who earns more ends up with more, and why the phrase, "when I make more money," is the most expensive sentence in the language. Your income has a ceiling, your standard of living has a floor, and you build it a little higher every time you win. His daughter is 9 when it finally lands. There's a school trip, overnight, 2 nights, some outdoor education place 4 hours north, $340, due in 3 weeks, and there's a form on the counter with a tear-off strip at the bottom. She asks him at dinner. Not excited exactly. Testing. Watching his face while she asks. And he says, "Let me check, that's all." 3 words. Reasonable words. He means them honestly, because he does need to check, because $340 in 3 weeks is a thing that requires checking. And his daughter says, "That's okay. Fast. Too fast." Before he's finished the sentence. Already folding it up, already putting it away, already moving on to something else so that nobody has to sit in it. She is 9 years old, and she has learned to preempt him. She did not learn that this evening. He sits at that table with a fork in his hand and understands with a clarity that will not leave him for a long time that his daughter has a model of him in her head. And in that model, the answer to $340 is not obviously yes. 3 promotions, 11 years, every one of them a win. And somewhere in there, without a single thing going wrong, he became a man his kid checks the price with before she asks. He pays for the trip. Of course he pays for the trip. He finds the money the way people always find the money, by moving it from somewhere it was already needed, and he signs the tear-off strip, and he says nothing about any of it. But that isn't the part that stays with him. What stays with him is the speed. How fast she said it, how practiced it sounded. Because a 9-year-old doesn't build that reflex in one evening, and he has spent 11 years absolutely certain that he was giving her a better life than the one he had. He was. That's the strange thing. Objectively, measurably, he was. She just never got to see it. Because every time the ceiling went up, the floor came with it, and from where she was standing, the room never changed shape at all. He doesn't cut anything. That surprises people, but there's nothing to cut. The bedroom stays, the daycare stayed until she aged out of it. He isn't going to take the thermostat back down to 64 to prove something to himself. He changes one thing, and only one, and it happens 14 months later. The 4th raise comes through. And before it lands, before the first paycheck, before he has ever seen the number sitting in the account, before it has 8 weeks to become the amount instead of the money, he splits it. Half of it goes somewhere he doesn't look. He doesn't tell anyone. Not because it's a secret, because telling people makes it a plan, and plans have a way of getting negotiated. The half he keeps still feels like a raise. It's still good, he still gets the 8 weeks. He just doesn't get all of it, and the version of him that would have gotten all of it never finds out what he missed. That's the whole thing. It isn't clever, and it isn't discipline. It's a timing trick, and it works entirely because the money never becomes his before it leaves. The following spring, there's another form on the counter. He says yes before she finishes asking. 4:52 on a Thursday afternoon. Same conference room. Same broken blind. Same bright stripe across the table. His manager slides a single sheet of paper across and says the number out loud because saying it is the whole point of the meeting. He shakes her hand. She says, "Tell you viewers to like, share, and subscribe." He says thank you. He means it. And then he does something he has never done after any of the other 3. He goes out to the parking lot, sits in his car, and moves the money before he drives home. 4 minutes, in the front seat, with the engine off. It is not a ceremony. Nobody sees it. Then he drives home, to a house that is exactly as warm as it was yesterday. Nothing about his life looks different. That's the part nobody puts in the story, because it doesn't photograph well. Here's what you should take from this. You are probably not going to be underpaid your whole life. Most people get the yes eventually. Most people get the handshake and the printed sheet and the 8 good weeks. The question was never whether you'd earn more. The question is whether you'll ever meet the person that money was supposed to make you.